So we're getting a new ballroom. The government remains shut down. Trump wants to end the filibuster. And what's going on in Venezuela? Why do we have all these Navy ships there? That and so much more. I'm Adam Kinzinger. I was a U.S. Congressman for 12 years, an Air Force pilot for 22. And this is your Week in Review. Now, one of the first things I want to say is to go today, if you get a chance this weekend at some point, watch The Last Republican. It's on demand. You can find it on YouTube TV. You can find it on Apple. You can find it on Amazon. This is a documentary about my family and I that followed us during the January 6th stuff. I have no financial interest in it. I make no money. But I think it's just important to see because I think it's a good lesson of what happened on January 6th, but also all the intervening investigation, as well as a big, serious human impact to that. So if you get a chance, take a look. And also remember to go to wearthemoutproducts.com. Go take a look. We've got a lot of cool like shirts and hats and things, rolling out new designs every day. We have V-necks now. And so it's a good opportunity to go get something that you can show people what you believe, because, that's what we all want to do, right? All right, let's go into what's been going on. So Trump decided to announce that he wants to end the filibuster. Now, this is a big deal. As you know, in the Senate, the minority gets to filibuster any bill, and it's pretty much automatic with anything, which is why you need 60 votes to pass anything in the Senate. Well, Donald Trump is now saying that he wants to get rid of that rule, and it can be done. It has been done in the past on certain things like court nominations and stuff like that. So Donald Trump claims that because the government's been shut down for so long, the Senate should just get rid of it. Now, Republicans traditionally have been very supportive of keeping it. So it'll be interesting to watch and see how they react to this. Are they able to get Democrats on board to get rid of the filibuster? My guess is probably not. But it is a big deal that Trump announced this, and it's going to make other Republican senators squirm now as they try to both please Trump and also maybe do something they actually believe in. So watch that. Also, Trump made an announcement that the U.S. is going to resume nuclear weapons testing. Kind of interesting. What does that mean? Well, China, for instance, has been doubling their nuclear arsenal. They've gone from like 400 to 800 missiles that we know of. Russia just tested a missile that is nuclear powered. It's not necessarily a nuclear missile. It is powered by nuclear fusion, but it also could carry a nuclear warhead. And I believe that's in contravention of some of the nuclear arms controls that we've signed. So Donald Trump announced that he's going to resume nuclear testing. Now, here's the question on that. Is he talking about testing things that deliver nuclear weapons, or is he talking about testing nuclear weapons? It's been 30 years since the United States has tested a nuclear weapon with a nuclear explosion. I think it's been about 30 years for Russia as well. However, every year we do fire an intercontinental ballistic missile to test, both to test that they still work and also show to the Russians that we still have the ability to do it. Russians do the same thing. And so that's an important thing to consider. If Donald Trump is talking about resuming testing for the stuff that delivers nuclear weapons, that's one thing. That's acceptable and that's understandable. If he's talking about explosions again, I'm not sure his team's necessarily going to go with that. I'm not too worried about this actually happening, but it is worth mentioning because he is the president of the United States and he did say it, and he has stirred up a little bit of controversy. And China and Russia claims it's going to start a new arms race. Well, maybe if he does, maybe, but I'm not too worried at this point about it. He is Donald Trump. He does just say some things. RFK Jr. just recently said that there is not enough evidence to confirm that Tylenol has autism links. So if you remember this, he did say that women who take Tylenol while they're pregnant are more likely to have autistic children, which is completely crap, by the way. It is not true. But he said it, probably read it on a blog somewhere. Maybe he hates Tylenol, whatever it is. Now, the problem with this is not only is it incorrect, but it puts the guilt on the mother and says basically, well, your kid's autistic because you took Tylenol. It's your fault, which is BS, not true, and an awful thing to do, quite honestly. So RFK Jr. did say recently in a hearing that, in fact, there is no link, or at least they have not scientifically confirmed a link. The problem is he's already announced there is a link. So undoing the damage is pretty difficult to do, especially when the president has already come out and said he thinks this is the case, even though he has no evidence of it anyway. And he's just saying what he was told by RFK, who now says there's not enough evidence. It's the same thing that happens with people that think vaccines cause autism, which it does not. There is no even possible way it could if you know the science of vaccines. That doesn't stop people from making the connection. And again, then putting the guilt on the parent as if somehow it's their fault, and it's not. And so we need to get past that. Now, on another big issue, obviously, one of the more important things coming up in a few days is the election in Virginia and New Jersey. So this is always seen as kind of a litmus test on how the party not in power is doing, because it always comes a year after a presidential election. And so let's see what happens. It appears probably likely that Democrats will win the races in Virginia and New Jersey. Um, the question is by how much? If it's very close, it doesn't necessarily send a strong message on behalf of Democrats. If it is a big margin, then it sends a very strong message that maybe this is kind of a Democratic year and a Democratic wave. What really matters is what happens in a year in the 2026 elections. And a new poll came out from Verisite that shows that 55% of US adults, by the way, believe that Trump is acting like he's above the law and that he's consolidating power like a king. And voters say that a president should be constrained by checks and balances by a 71-19 margin. So these are not good numbers for Donald Trump. The survey also finds a 7-point lead for the Democratic Party on the 2026 House generic ballot. So what they do is they just say, hey, if you were voting in a race, would you vote for the generic Democrat or the generic Republican? And typically, whoever's leading by 5 or more tends to pretend that it's going to be that they will take the majority. And the larger that number gets tends to show whether or not this will be a wave election. So there'll be a lot of people. So right now, according to this poll, if it's right, if Democrats ran, they would win the House of Representatives. The question is, can they continue that all the way till next November? It's typically the tailwinds are in their favor, but they have to do a better job at messaging. And another thing is switched too, which is now voters are preferring the Democratic Party on things like inflation and the economy, which have always been big Republican issues, and healthcare, which has always been a big Democratic issue. So we'll see what the Democrats do next week in Virginia and New Jersey. That'll say a lot, and we'll go from there. Also, pending U.S. military strikes now on Venezuela. What's going to happen? Well, we don't really know, to be honest with you. There are military assets near Venezuela that are, some of them are blowing up these drug boats, if you hear about them, that are, these drug dealers, which I don't think is legal, but is happening anyway. But the reality is there's a whole bunch of stuff in the area that is not there to take out drug dealers. The question is, what's the president planning to do? So there's F-35s, there's Navy frigates, there's destroyers. That's not what's usually done for taking out drug boats, which, by the way, they have been doing, taking out drug boats. But that's something you do if you're planning to attack a country, attack a regime. Nicolas Maduro, very bad leader of Venezuela. If he went away, I wouldn't lose an ounce of sleep. But the question is, what's the plan here? Nobody really knows. Donald Trump hasn't talked to Congress like he should do. And so we'll have to see what the future of this is. But it's definitely kind of something to watch. And so it could be that next time I'm here next week, we're talking about strikes on Venezuela, maybe talking about how this is still built up. So we'll have to see what happens, but continue to keep an eye on it, as well as what happens in the continuing government shutdown as planes are being canceled, as flights get delayed, as people don't end up getting food stamps and the pain increases. What happens at that point? Do Democrats say enough and capitulate? Do Republicans say enough and negotiate? We'll have to see as well. One thing I can promise you is Congress is still going to be on vacation, as they have been for a whole number of weeks. So anyway, that's all for now. Remember, check out The Last Republican this weekend on demand, and also go to wearthemoutproducts.com for some good stuff you'll like to show and wear around for, whatever's between Halloween and Thanksgiving. Take care. Have a good one. Till next time.